Well, I'm Joanna with Blissful Baby Sleep Coaching, and I'm here with Justin and Rachel, and we are doing a celebration call for their daughter. Yes, woohoo! Who was 15 months at the time of coaching. So why don't you guys tell me what life looked like before you called me?
Well, she'd be waking up multiple times a night to nurse. And sometimes she'd be awake for hours, at a time. And it just seemed to become harder and harder to get her to go back to sleep, like the older she got. And even if Justin would try and help out, she would just really protest a lot. She didn't want him at all trying to help put her back to sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So
Yes.
we were both ended up sleep deprived quite a bit, especially Rachel. What would happen is like I would then have to get up really early with the baby, and so she could, try to get a little bit of solid sleep in. And then that means I was rushing to kind of get ready for work and also, get the baby ready and watch her and feed her and everything until Rachel got up. And then, neither of us had enough sleep to kind of get through the day.
Yeah. And she was also awake for long periods of time in the middle of the night, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
not only was she
Yeah.
up 5 or 6 times to nurse, because that's the only thing she wanted, and she would deny dad if dad was like, okay, I'll rock you to sleep. I'll walk you around the house. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just let mama sleep. She was like, no, 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 it has to be mom. And then sometimes those arousals would be really long. And so mom would either be nursing back to sleep, or dad would be just walking around the house, keeping her kind of entertained until she was ready to nurse again to go back to sleep. So no one was getting any sleep, including the baby.
Right.
And you guys were tag teaming furiously. And also there was, the mommy preference thing that I call, where she was just so dominant with mom that dad was ready, available, interested, totally hands-on dad. But when it came to sleep, she's like, nah. Only mom, only the breast. Okay. So what made you guys decide then to ask for help? Like what was going on to the point where you finally picked up the phone?
Yeah, I mean, we really, when she turned a year old, we, realized that this problem of her not sleeping through the night and not, giving up her night feedings, like that problem wasn't going to go away. And so we really wanted to try and get her weaned off of the night feedings.
Right. Yeah. I think it was kind of like a boiling the frog situation where it was getting worse, but only very gradually. And so, for a long time, we didn't notice. In fact, occasionally she would have a good night. And we would fixate on that, kind of lie to ourselves and say, oh, this is the real direction that things are going in right now. Right. But, eventually it was kind of undeniable. Eventually, night after night of only getting a couple hours of sleep, and just not being able to function during the day. We kind of had to confront reality and yeah.
Don't you hate it when you have to confront reality?
Yeah.
I know it happens to all of us. I know exactly. And if I recall, didn't you remind me how you found me again?
Oh, just searching online. I think we saw, I think what attracted me to you is like we saw all the reviews on Yelp. Like everyone was just saying like, oh, this actually worked. I was still like, oh, it doesn't really work, but I was like, okay, well, we'll give it a try. Yeah.
Yeah. And I should say, you guys, that Rachel and Justin are big researchers, right? So they had already been doing lots of research, lots of reading, lots of trying different things. So, the fact that they were like, all right, I'm turning to Yelp or Google reviews to see is a real testament to how they had tried everything and nothing had worked. And they were willing to say, maybe we need to take a new approach, and maybe the new approach is a coach. And I know that's a hard place to be, right? It's a hard place to be when you really are like highly intelligent, people that are like, we've tried everything, we've done the reading and nothing's sticking. What could some person like Joanna, how can they figure out if I can't figure out? That's a vulnerable place to be. But and you guys were very honest about that. You're like, we've tried so many things. Like, how can this really work? And I'm like, it does. And that's why I have a sleep success guarantee. So I think that's always helpful to know that it's true. It does work. It really, really does work. So what was it like to then work with me? I mean, knowing that you guys found me on Yelp and Google, it wasn't even like you guys found me on a personal referral or pediatrician referral where I get a lot of, business, that you guys were really taking a leap of faith. So what was it like to work with me, or what made you feel like you could trust me?
Well, I mean, I think we did that first initial call
Mhm.
before we made the commitment to the training.
Yeah, the sleep
and
strategy session.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
sleep strategy session. And that's when I sort of like saw all these things that I had kind of been missing just based on, when we tried to figure things out on our own and doing our own research online and stuff.
Mm.
And I started to realize, maybe I'm not an expert just because I spent, a little bit of time researching this online. Maybe someone who's done this, a bunch with a bunch of different parents and children is going to be able to, help us out here. So yeah, in terms of like what it's been like, I mean, yeah, you've been very friendly, very kind. But most important, you've been effective. And so yeah, it's just been a relief. The whole process has been a
Mm.
relief to kind of to kind of get over that. I don't know what to call it, but that, yeah, those obstacles and getting her to sleep through the night and allowing us then to sleep through the night.
Yeah. And I would say another thing that's important here is that Rachel and her baby girl, they were, co-sleeping and nursing, and mom liked it. I mean, she's a beautiful baby. She's really fun. It's fun to be in that nursing, cuddly, co-sleeping environment. So there was a little bit of like, I know this is not work, like we're not sleeping well in this environment, but at the same time, like, oh my God, I'm like not going to be with my baby all night. That was hard for you. Can you talk a little bit about that transition for yourself? How, we, because let me just preface, like, whatever the nursing relationship is that the parents want is what we try to do, right? So we had to work with what our goals were for sleep coaching, but also work with what mom's goals were and what pace mom needed to go in as a nursing mom, because you don't want to wean down too fast. It's not fair to the mom's breast. It's not fair to the baby. So we had to and mom, from an emotional point of view, was kind of like, okay, let's pay attention to what we're doing here. So would you like to speak to that, Mom?
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed like we had her in the same room as us, and it just seemed like felt like another room was just, too far away. So this kind of to sleep train her, you had said that, putting her in her own room would be helpful, but and you had the idea to have us move out of the room so she would have her same sleep environment for temporarily. And so I think it was like the stepping stone that we needed to be able to put her in her own room.
Right. And our intention was to sleep coach her in the master bedroom so that they could continue room sharing. They just wouldn't be co-sleeping. The baby would be in the crib and they would be in the master bedroom and they'd be room sharing. But what we learned in the process, because it's always a collaboration between each parent and the baby, total collaboration, right? It's not my plan that you guys execute. It's our plan that we're constantly evaluating. Is we came to realize like, oh, wow, this baby sleeps better and alone. And then the parents are kind of like, wow, this is kind of fun not to have this is kind of fun to have our own space back. This is amazing. So I think that things can evolve. And I think that's what's so exciting about this process. As I always say, you learn so much about your baby and you learn a lot about yourself. And I think that's an example of that you sometimes come out of it with like a whole new, like, freedom that you didn't even know existed, which is amazing. Okay. So what does it look like now? Like, how many hours a night is she sleeping? What's going on? Where is she sleeping?
Yeah, it's been a huge difference for only a few weeks. She's sleeping through the night, and she's sleeping 11 to 12 hours a night, and
Putting herself down for a nap
putting
too.
herself down for her naps. And yeah, she's made a lot of changes. And we were able to put her in her own room. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And we did that all within like 2 to 3 weeks, right?
Yep.
yeah, it was. So it seemed like the progress was really fast. Within the first night of the sleep training, was down to just one feeding from like 3 or 4. And then within the first week, she dropped them all. And, you know, within 2 weeks, she was sleeping through the night. So yeah, it was really,
Yeah. And I should say the
process.
baby was self-weaning. So mom did not have to make any big dramatic bold changes, which is what was one of her concerns, that I want to move too fast. I want to like pay attention to the baby's cues. And that's exactly what we did. And that's what made it so joyful to watch the learning process. So if you were to meet a tired parent and they're complaining about sleep, what do you want them to know?
Yeah, I mean, I'd let them know that sleep coaching is really worth it. And that, you know, if you think, you know, like me, I mean, I kind of thought it might be impossible to sleep train a toddler. They're just too old, you know, she's too used to this and set in her ways, but, you know, it really did work. We followed all the steps and it worked really well.
But also maybe don't wait that long. I mean, there's
No, but if you did already, you know,
Right,
it's still not too late. Yeah, that's the thing. I think you said,
Yeah, it's
you know,
not too
not
late.
too late. And I had been thinking, you know, that it might be, but, and then, you know, this might work for other people, but not for my baby. But, you know, it did, it really did. So.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll just tag on to that. It's never too late. So those of you that have like a 5-year-old and you're like, oh my gosh, or 7-year-old or 8-year-old or 9-year-old or 10-year-old, it's never too late. This is a learned skill. And if we create the right environment and circumstances, the child can learn anything. Okay. So that's the good news. That's like the big news. And then the other news is that that if you wanted to do it sooner, I always recommend a baby's rolling both ways, gone through their 4 to 5 months sleep regression, is closer to 5, 6, or 7 months is usually a better time. So you can do it as early as 5 or 6 months and up until 10 years of age, no problem. Okay. But if you have a 15-month-old, you're still not too late, because it was working for their family up until it wasn't working, and that's okay. So you don't also have to do it when they're 6 months. If you're loving co-sleeping and nursing and your baby's 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, and it's still working great, fine. You only need to do sleep coaching when it's no longer working for you or it's no longer working for the baby. So there is no like rigid timelines, like the have to kind of thing. That's what's so great, is that you're never too late to the party and you do it when you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time that you guys called me, you were ready.
Yeah, I just felt like we had nothing to lose, because we're awake for hours and at night, nothing is working, you know.
Gonna get
And
worse.
so that's why we're like, there's nothing to
Yeah.
lose, but yeah, it really worked.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I don't want everyone coming to me when they're already like desperate, but no, you guys, I'm just teasing. Anyway, well, thank you so much for trusting me, and to be walking through the process of gentle sleep coaching with me. It was such a pleasure working with you guys, and I'm absolutely thrilled with everything that we accomplished together, and keep in touch.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thanks.